With our third negative status team finally being completely finished, there has been a trend among every single negative status team that I think is incredibly worth talking about, being the excessively high damage ceiling that all negative status teams have compared to their damage floor. To explain the difference between those two, the damage floor most often refers to the absolute minimum amount of damage output that you can expect out of a team. In the context of Wuthering Waves, this would refer to a 1-2-3 rotation using absolutely zero animation cancels or dash cancels. A good example of this would be using Zani with Phoebe and Shorekeeper and using a double Nightfall rotation. Meanwhile, the damage ceiling refers to the absolute maximum amount of damage that you can achieve with the team. And that would be referring to a rotation where Zani can use her Nightfall attack up to 4 times. For the purposes of this video, I'm only going to be referring to this concept when it comes to character rotations, and not when it comes to character gear optimization or pulling duplicates for the character. That way, I can purely analyze the sheer skill ceiling that negative status teams tend to have compared to regular Hypercarry teams. So first, I want to dive into Hypercarry teams and the optimizations that you are most likely to find within a Hypercarry team. Obviously, when we're sticking to 1-2-3, there are still animation cancels that almost every single Hypercarry is going to be able to take advantage from. To use Luke as an example, he is able to dash cancel his Golden Impale attacks because his Golden Impales do very little damage and have a very long animation. So by dash cancelling these attacks, you save crucial time, which increases your total DPS. So the concept of a damage ceiling still applies to Hypercarry DPSs. There is also some forms of Quickswap that some DPSs are able to engage in. An example of this would be during the Imeth Toon Rupture rotation, right as Lene is about to use her Visual Impact attack, which is the Special Plunge, you're able to swap into Imeth to do her basic 2, 3, and 4, and then you can swap back into Lene to then use her Ultra skill into Imeth. That way you can instantly use Imeth's ultimate, which saves you a little bit of time, because you're cancelling the time that you have to wait for Lene's Visual Impact animation to fully play out. However, when it comes to Hypercarry teams, there is one incredibly big bottleneck that causes it to be incredibly hard for a bog standard Hypercarry to really go much beyond their damage floor, and that is outro skills. Most outro skills from sub-DPS characters, like Lene or Choyuan, have an effect where the effect of the outro skill completely cancels out once you swap out of the Resonator prematurely. Thus meaning that once you've used Choyuan's outro skill into Sigrika, you cannot swap out of your Sigrika unless you want to lose a massive amount of damage. This is a very big bottleneck for a ton of Hypercarry DPS characters, and it just so happens to be one restriction that negative status characters do not suffer from. Ever since Phoebe, every single negative status supportive character has had an outro skill that lasts for 30 seconds and does not cancel when you swap out. And not just that, it also applies to the entire team, which means that you're free to swap as much as you want. And that is incredibly powerful, because like I said before, Quickswap can give you a ton of small optimizations that you would not have access to if you didn't abuse Quickswap as a mechanic. I've already given you an example with Lene and Imeth before, but there's a ton of others. Now, why is Quickswap even so strong in the first place? What makes this such a good mechanic? Well, it's very simple when you think about it. Whenever you swap out of a character, and the character is still using an attack, they will finish their animation. This means that if you swap out of a character right as they start the animation in the first place, you are effectively going to be on-fielding 2 characters until the character that you swapped out of finishes their animation. This is incredibly time efficient. If you're constantly swapping between Denia and Chisa within an Imeth team, you're essentially building both of their concertos at the exact same time, which means that you should be getting both of their outro skills significantly faster. This as a concept does not only apply to negative status. Whenever I did speedruns with my Augusta, I would be quick swapping between my Mortefi and Shorekeeper during the first rotation. Or for example, when playing Brant DPS, it's incredibly recommended to quick swap between Lupa and Brant to build both of their fortes at the exact same time, thus vastly speeding up your rotation. And not only do you make your rotation faster, which at a certain point stops being useful because of cooldowns, you're also just simply getting more attacks out, and more attacks naturally equals more damage. So no matter which type of archetype you're playing, putting some quick swap into your rotation can absolutely help you. But like I said before, there's a specific reason why negative status characters can take way more advantage of this than any other. It's the Outra skills. They don't expire upon swapping, they last 30 seconds, and they apply team-wide. This gives you such an absurd amount of freedom to do whatever you want with your rotation, it's insane. It doesn't matter who your intra skills go into, so you can just use your intra skill on the character that appreciates their intra skill the most. The 30-second duration of the Outra skill also means that you do not have any sort of strict timing to follow on your main DPS. You're able to use whatever ability at whatever point in the rotation you want. Whenever is the most convenient for you is the exact place you should be using the ability, instead of being forced to stick to a strict 14-second time limit to put all of your major damage windows into. And this freedom to use the abilities of your main DPS whenever is convenient, and to intro skill into whoever has the best intro skill, becomes even more powerful when you combine that with literally every single other benefit of Quickswap that I mentioned before. You don't have to wait on your Chisa's animations in order to start your Denia rotation, because there's absolutely nothing stopping you from swapping between the two. The amount of useful actions per second that you're taking drastically increases because you're quick swapping, and unlike other teams, you lose absolutely nothing for doing it. The Mono Fusion team of Chong-Li, Brant, and Lupa had one of the craziest quick swap playstyles at the time of their release. But ultimately, their Outra skills still expired early when you swapped off of them. So their damage ceiling, while being significantly higher than if you played it 1-2-3, still just cannot compare to the damage increase that a negative status team is able to get. Something that also helps the negative status teams is that all of the main DPSs in these teams have mechanics that greatly benefit from quick swapping. Zani obviously has her incredibly famous triple Nightfall and quad Nightfall rotation, because in order to make your Nightfall strong enough to be worth using, you need to have enough Blaze. However, in order to get Blaze, you need to apply Spectral Frazzle, and Zani obviously has a cap to how much Blaze she can actually have. So being able to consume Blaze and then quickly regenerate Blaze at the same time by quick swapping is one of the biggest damage increases that Zani could possibly ask for. Cardathea has a mechanic where she consumes Area Erosion on certain attacks to have it instantly deal damage. So one of her main weaknesses should in theory be that you need consistent Area Erosion application. And while Shikona is able to apply this from off-field, you can still just cancel Shikona's ultimate because her abilities can also apply Area Erosion. So while Shikona is supposed to be played off-field with her ultimate, you're not forced into actually doing that. The only thing Shikona's ultimate really helps her do is apply Area Erosion from off-field. But if you're capable of on-fielding both Cardathea and Shikona at the same time anyway, you're just gonna get more damage by quick-swapping those two characters. And then while Imeth definitely has a bit less windows than Cardathea and Zani, because her Forte skill locks her into an animation, one of her biggest bottlenecks is still having to do basic attacks in order to build up her Forte. That's one of the main time wasters during her rotation, because her basic attacks don't really do that much damage. So if you're able to pre-build her Forte while Denia and Chisa are doing their own rotations, it means that your Imeth rotation can be a lot shorter, and you're doing a lot more useful actions per second because your Imeth needs that Forte built up. It also helps that a lot of these sub-DPSs have very good swap windows. Chisa has her Rending Lunge, her Death Snip, her Forte skill, and her third Saw Ring Blitz attack. Denia has each of the attacks in her ultimate as well as her ultimate's enhanced skill. Phoebe has her Star Flash heavy attack, and Shakona has things like her 4th basic attack, her skill, and her Forte heavy attack. So every single character in the negative status team has a reason to quickswap and animations that are going to be very good for quickswapping. So to say it in one sentence, the reason that negative status characters have such a high damage ceiling compared to their damage floor is because they are not punished for quickswapping. And quickswap just so happens to be one of the most powerful mechanics in the entire game. But that's just my opinion on the topic. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. And while you're down there, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, you should join my Discord server, which is linked down in the description below. But that'll be all from me. Peace.